Welcome to Occupation-Based Models, where I will be discussing the 5 different models we've talked over in theories class so far. Alright, so first we're going to start off with occupational behavior, which I associate with childlike behavior because of Mary Riley's developmental approach in this model. So the focus of this model is to prevent and reduce the disruptions and incapacities of occupational behavior that result from injury and illness. Some core assumptions are that all human beings have a psychological need for meaningful occupation, that occupation is intrinsically motivating, and that our culture greatly influences our occupations. You are functional if you can seek, complete, and adapt occupations that meet your personal needs and the needs of society, and dysfunctional when neither of these needs can be met. To bring about change, therapists seek to harness a person's intrinsic motivations to drive changes, resulting from the balance of occupational behaviors. Some interventions would look like providing a just right challenge, incorporating interests into treatment, or promoting coping skills to allow individuals to competently adapt to change. Okay, now we are on to the model of human occupation, or MOHO. I think about MOHO as 4 letters, 4 principles. Those principles being volition, habituation, performance capacity, and environment. For this model, those first 3 are about the person, and then the environment is all the external factors. These combine together to create occupational participation. MOHO specifically looks at the process of engaging in occupations, which changes with time. It also looks at the innate motivations of people, the environment's constant influence, and has a special interest in how people gain a sense of self-efficacy and identity from occupations. MOHO uses the terms ordered and disordered when describing function and dysfunction. A person is ordered when they participate in chosen occupations to the satisfaction of themselves and society. A person is disordered when they are not successful in these occupations. Regarding change, MOHO holds the belief that a change in any of the 4 principles I mentioned will affect all of the other ones. There are 3 identified stages of change that happen through the course of development, and these are exploration, competency, and achievement. Think about a college student exploring majors, then gaining competency as he does his classes, and then achieving his goals as a student by passing his classes. MOHO interventions are tailored to each client after a therapist has collaborated with them and also observed them performing their occupations. An example could be coaching a young man recovering from an acquired brain injury while he participates in a cooking task that he enjoyed before his injury. Okay, this model is the Person, Environment, Occupation, Performance Model, or PEOP. I differentiate this model from the others by thinking about people's stories. This model highlights the importance of a client's narrative because of how personal their occupations are. In this model, we want the client to be as involved in their own goal setting as possible. PEOP really focuses on exploring and utilizing the complex nature of occupational performance, which is all affected by the interactions between the person, the environment, and the occupation being performed. Any change in one affects all the others, which is why therapists want to know how the system works so that they can lead clients to successful occupational performance. A big assumption of PEOP is that if you cannot participate in meaningful occupations, you cannot achieve full health. If you can participate in occupations, then that promotes health, well-being, and participation. Contexts have a big part in shaping our goals as people for our health and for our own well-being. In the PEOP model, a person is viewed as functional when their desires and competency in occupations align with the environmental demands and fulfill occupational requirements. Dysfunction occurs when a person's performance is insufficient or halted in some way, which keeps them from gaining mastery. Regarding change in motivation, In PEOP, the assumption is that all people have an innate motivation to master their environment. This is where therapists focus on eliciting change, which is why the narrative is so important. Getting to know what is important and motivating for a person allows us as therapists to build interventions that clients are motivated to do. There are many intervention approaches used in the PEOP model that I don't have time to go over, but some examples of interventions might be modifying cooking strategies for an adult who has arthritis, and this can be done by incorporating rest breaks and providing built-up handles to utensils that will prevent pain and discomfort. Another example may be creating a new daily routine of walking in the park for a client who is battling depression. All right, next we have the ecology of human performance, or EHP. And I like to differentiate this model from the others by thinking about how, EHP starts with an E, and I think about everything around, because a big emphasis in this model is the environment. So EHP really focuses on prevention, health promotion, and rehabilitation by analyzing a situation during task performance or performing occupations. Analyzing the situation means that EHP therapists are looking at how the overall context, so culture, environment, the person's time of life, etc., affects a person while they are completing a task. Some base concepts for EHP include ecology, which is the interaction between a person and their environment, the belief that all people have unique skills and preferred ways of organizing their occupations, as well as capacities that are constantly changing through their experience of life. In the EHP model, function is defined as having a high performance range, or the ability to effectively complete a multitude of occupations and roles. In dysfunction, a person has a restricted performance range, which occurs when the interactions between the person, context, and task become disrupted. In the EHP model, a therapist would ask directly what a client wants to get back to doing, what is important to them, and what they need when considering change and motivation. If a person is interested in an occupation, they are expected to be motivated to complete said occupation. A client's perception of roles and valued occupations are especially important in EHP. A common goal in EHP is independence, but independence is determined by the client's subjective view, not the therapist's conclusions. There are 4 intervention guidelines in the EHP model, which are establish and restore, alter, adapt or modify, and prevent. Some examples could be preventing falls through education or restoring upper extremity range of motion through practice to engage in knitting after a stroke. All right, and last but not least, we have occupational adaptation, or OA. For this one, I chose the phrase overachieving to help me remember this model. And I chose that because it's very complex, as we all know, but also I thought about how a big part of this model involves every person's innate desire to master their environment and the environment's demands for mastery, aka achievement. Okay, so what OA focuses on is the dynamic process between a person and their environment, specifically how a person adapts in terms of their own desires for mastery, the environment's demand for mastery, and the occupational challenge before them, or the task to be done. The outlined goal for OA in general is to enable clients to effectively adapt to new challenges. Some core assumptions in OA are that occupations all provide some opportunity for a person to adapt, and that a person's occupational roles inherently have demands that must be met, both from the environment and from the person themselves. Things that can disrupt a person's ability to adapt could be illness, physical or emotional disability, or difficult life transitions. Successful occupational performance is viewed as successful adaptation. In OA, a person is in a state of function when they can participate and complete occupations in a way that satisfies both them and their environment. Adaptation. A person is in dysfunction when they are quote-unquote disadaptive, or when they are not responding to occupational challenges to the satisfaction of themselves or the environment. Motivation in OA is influenced by a person's internal desire for mastery, the environmental demand for mastery, and the combined press for mastery that results. Because of the innate desire, whatever is meaningful to the client will influence their motivation. Change is then measured by a client's report of their improved mastery, a client's ability to generalize adaptive skills to multiple occupations, and the client's ability to initiate adaptive responses. The overall goal in occupational adaptation is for the therapist to facilitate the client's growth towards mastery and adaptive skills because the client is viewed as their own agent of change. Some intervention ideas could be role-playing a community mobility outing to prepare the client for the real thing after they have experienced a brain injury. Or this could look like enabling a client who is recovering from stroke to problem solve during an upper body dressing task.